afternoon, and welcome to this week's episode of Level Up Cyber. My name is Tony Bryan, your host, and I'm very excited to have the next 30 minutes with you and my friend Cam Razavi to talk a little bit about his journey from a chef to a cybersecurity professional. So, Cam, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've been waiting a long time to do this.
So full disclosure, I think the consistent trend of most people that come in, there's been some sort of relationship with me that come on the show, which makes it easy, right, to call your guests. But so Cammie and I have known each other since middle school, probably even a little bit before middle school. I used to run and play football in yards and basketball and, hung out and did all kinds of fun things. But have been friends for all those years. And I've kind of watched him through his career path and his journey and his most recent transition into cyber. And it's been a really fun and neat thing to watch, right? And so I thought there's just an incredible amount of lessons learned in this. I think there's a lot of things for others that would be listening, just advice and nuggets that you took and I think heeded to that I think really helped you well to get you where you're at today, which I'm excited to share with everybody. But ultimately, I think, you serve, to me, it's just a good example of taking the time, studying it out, setting your mind on a goal, kind of leaning into the things you want to do and then accomplishing those goals, right? And that wasn't, I don't think nobody gave it to you, you earned it. So there's a lot of positive things that are there. So with that, let's just jump in, man, if that's cool. So, I know your story, but let's dive into this a little bit, right? We graduated high school and then you went to we'll go all the way back there.
Wow, that's a long time. So you graduated high school.
We won't call the big one. So we can cover that. We can cover the grounds because I think people's perspective.
Well, it's been a 25-year journey for me to get to here. Correct. And just starting my cyber career. So after high school, I did the thing a lot of kids will do, and they'll went straight to college. I went to the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, and then during that time, I started cooking to make a little extra money, and I found myself more interested in going to work in the kitchen rather than going to class. So I ended up dropping out and basically came back to St. Louis, and over that time period, just kept evolving. I did go to the Cordon Bleu and got a culinary certificate there as well after about 10, 15 years of already cooking. So then worked in pretty much everything, from casual, Applebee's all the way up to fine dining at the end of my career. So during the pandemic in 2020, it was a big change.
Hold on quick. So restaurants, just for context, right? Like you opened restaurants, you closed restaurants, you set menus. So there's a lot of aspects of just I think when people think of a kitchen, the bear at Popson Head, I think, is more traditional now, just the chef thing. But that was you, right? You were the dude in the kitchen cooking, calling the shots, making menus.
Absolutely. I was a executive chef or sous chef for most of that time period. So I did help open up about over 12 restaurants within that time. Ran those restaurants, everything from the building stage, from, where it's concrete floors, to hiring everybody, coming up with all the recipes, procedures, everything involved with that, So one of those things is how do those skills translate over to a new career, which is what I had to kind of look at and decide. Like I was saying, around 2020, the restaurant industry and everything got hit really hard. So, and I also had to have a few foot surgeries, so I wasn't able to do those long hours, standing up for 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. So I had to find a way to pivot and get out of the industry for my future. So that's kind of when I discovered cybersecurity.
Let's kind of walk through. So, I know you and I talked and you looked at multiple angles, right, around the boot camps and certs and colleges and things. And then you landed on a more traditional pathway, which was obviously in this scenario was a great thing. But walk through a little bit of just kind of you doing your research and due diligence, what made you pick that college pathway as your best option?
Well, like I said, I had gone to college before, and I had about 3 years already put in towards the bachelor's degree. So I started out going to the community college here locally, and their associate's program for cybersecurity. And then after the first semester, I looked at it and I wondered, I wonder how many of those college credits from 25 years ago would actually apply towards a bachelor's degree now. So after looking at that and, looking at the other options, boot camp, like you said, just going straight certificates, I could get my bachelor's degree in the same amount of time as finishing an associate's degree. So for me, that made the most sense. And I was in a situation where I could straight up study and just go to school. I didn't have to worry about working at that time. So I was in a unique situation. Took full advantage of it. I was taking 21 hours a semester, everything I could take just to get done. And I finished in about 18 months. So for me, it was the most economical and time, you know, worthy way to approach this. Now, if I was somebody with no experience or no college, credits or anything, I think like an apprenticeship program like CyberUp offers would be the most amazing opportunity, for somebody to get their foot in the door. So
we've always been we've always been skills path agnostic, right? You're the Lindenwood program you went through, and there's lots of great 4-year programs in the country. So it's never what you described was the scenario that worked for you, that was the quickest, fastest, easiest way for you to gain the skills you needed to get the job. And that's always our thing. Pick what's best, and you could go from free on your own, self-guided. I know you've spent a lot of time looking at some other courses, and we'll dive a little bit into that with some more questions. But a lot of it is just find the right, quickest, best path that you're going to get excited about, keep you motivated, because this stuff's hard. It's not like it's, ABCs. This is, pretty complicated things that you have to truly dive into. So it's going to keep your interest. So along this journey, there are a couple things in my mind that I think stand out for you. One, just some of the things you did in trying to pursue the job part after, but also really around spending the time to figure out where you think you want to be in the space. Because, there's so many different areas within cyber that you can kind of pick and choose. So with that last part, I know you dove into several different subjects. So you want to elaborate a little bit on the subjects and some of the resources you turn to really look at what options and kind of paths are out there for this sector?
Well, I think it's important to kind of when you're looking at cybersecurity, it's such a broad industry. I mean, it's not just for people who can code or people who are really technical. If you're coming from a sales background or something like that, or a legal background, there's a space for you in this industry. So I thought that's one of the things that kind of drew me to it as well. The aspect that we're kind of behind the scenes, is helping protect people, helping protect their data, helping protect companies. I think that's a pretty cool thing and pretty noble. Something that you can be proud of that you're doing every day, and the money's good. So but yeah, like you said, YouTube was a huge resource for me. I became a YouTube junkie. If you just put cybersecurity in the search bar, you'll get so many videos on people showing you how to break into the industry, or what certifications to take, things like that. So if you're looking for some ideas or paths to take, you can do that. Also, though, I took it upon myself, even while I was in school, to go ahead and start attending local conferences, Secure World, things like that. Recently, I went to B-Sides. I drove to Kansas City and did that kind of thing. It's that's a way to get your face out there, get your name out there, network with people, and a lot of them, anybody you ask for advice is going to be more very helpful, and because they want you to succeed and come into this industry. As you know, there's a labor shortage, so the more people that come in and help out, the less work that they might have to do eventually.
Yeah, the one part that kind of stuck out of my head, I know you spent a lot of time, and I think you even made the purchase of the Simply Cyber kind of GRC curriculum, because there was a familiarity around that. So, I mean, I'm 100% drawing a blank on his name right now. Gerald, is that right?
Gerald Ozier. Dr. Gerald.
Yeah, I mean, you want to elaborate? I know you dove into the GRC stuff quite a bit. Maybe dive into some of that because, like, to me, what it represented and what we try to foot stomp for every person that comes in, or even just people that randomly ask questions about, like, what do I do? Like, it's just learn, find things, find opportunities, pursue whether it's GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, or other things. Find those opportunities that you can just kind of learn and resonate with people like Gerald who have good content. So what made you lean into GRC, and were there any other things you kind of dove into there?
So when I graduated from Lindenwood, I was lucky enough to get a co-op, which is basically an extended internship. It's about a 9-month program with True Manufacturing. And when I was there, I was really lucky to have a mentor who, appreciated the fact that I was coming from a different industry and that I was bringing in a new perspective on things and a new way to, approach the everyday, work that they were doing. So with that and being such a small team, I was able to, touch a little bit of everything. So whether it be just your normal incident response, whether, creating policies and procedures, helping implement those things. So along that time, I was given a few projects, and those projects made me realize, okay, maybe I want to go down this path of GRC eventually, where it's a bit more not as technical. You still have to know the basics of broad everything, but you're helping implement the practices that need to be taking place in order for to be secure. So you're following frameworks, you're following government guidelines if you need to be so it's a bit more laid out for you, regulated. You have a list of things. That's what you need to do. Check those things off. So for some people, if you like that structure, then GRC might be a way for you to go. But if you like, you know, I think the best thing to do is get your foot in the door, and then you can start worrying about exploring the path that you want to take. Because, like I said, it is such a broad industry. So the first thing to do is just get started and don't wait. Don't wait. 6 months from now, you could have a whole new life. You don't know. So
you did a great job, and I watched it happen quite a bit at the Secure Worlds and events. You met so many people and just asked questions, right? And I think to your point a little bit earlier is that everybody is generally willing and able and interested in trying to give you advice. If you came with good questions, so obviously you're not going to ask kind of weird questions to somebody if you can't. But like, what's a kind of a structured single answer that you could ask, or what's a good book, what's a good podcast? I know you've dove into quite a few podcasts just to even immerse yourself into some of the stuff that way. I've never asked this question before, so we're going to go off script here, in which that there's really not a script, but we're going to pretend there's a script. What was the co-op experience like? I know you just kind of alluded to all the different things, but I know you did some vendor stuff, you did some research stuff and project work. What was, and you had it was a good team, right? Like that does it. But what was that kind of first 6 months in space like for you?
It was really important because when I graduated, I didn't have any, background in IT. So like some people might have a little bit of help desk, experience, or even, to get started, but I had zero. So I really wanted to, even though I had graduated and have a bachelor's degree, I wanted to apply for internships and co-ops because I felt like that would be a better opportunity for me to learn on the job rather than, try to jump into a full-time position somewhere and drown, So it was a great experience for me because I was able to do that, take those steps and then work with a mentor who was, they knew I was there to learn, and they were able to kind of give me a path, and like I said, everybody was so helpful that it was for me the best experience coming with no IT background. So I think it helped a lot.
Well, I think the other aspect here is that True Manufacturing is a manufacturer, right? They make refrigerators. For those that are listening, when you walk into your gas station today, there's a strong possibility that whatever you're pulling a soda out of to purchase was made at True Manufacturing. So it was a more traditional company that, you know, is adding security, and there's just their products, as they get smarter and things, they have to start thinking a little differently.
And they're still building their program, you know, even though they've been around for a long time, they're still building that cybersecurity program. So you get to see how they're implementing things, why they're choosing the certain tools or certain, you know, the certain SIM or, you know, EDR that they're going with, you know, how it works for them, and, you know, how it works and how they're setting it up. So that's a good experience as well. So whereas, you know, now I'm with a bigger company, you know, so you can see the difference. You know, first day you see the difference, you know, coming from something like that to one of the largest aerospace companies in the country or world.
Yeah, well, and that's a great segue to it. So you ended the co-op, and you know, luckily you had great managers that were very supportive. Like, hey, there's not a job at the end of this. We encourage you to look. We're going to give you as much time as you want, which is fantastic. And it gave you an opportunity to start looking. So, you know, what did your job search consist of? Maybe that's some great advice for people to start. Like, where did you start with that?
So I kind of didn't start putting out resumes till towards the end of my co-op, because I wanted to be sure that the things that I was putting on my resume I could actually speak to or back up. You know, you don't want to be somebody who just puts stuff on the resume and maybe you touched it one time and you're going to throw it on your resume, and then when the time comes to, you know, talk about it, you have no idea what's going on. So um, I was very uh, vigilant as far as, you know, updating my resume continually as I learned more skills. And then when the time came, I started applying towards jobs. Now, I was very lucky. You know, I'm not one of those people who has stories like, well, I applied to 100 jobs, I didn't hear back from anybody. You know, that it seems to be the case, you know, that you hear a lot nowadays. I applied to maybe 20 jobs overall, you know, got one interview and landed the job that I'm at now. So it was kind of a unicorn experience, you know, that you don't really hear about too often. But I just like to think that, well, I did the work and I got rewarded for it, hopefully. So
I mean, I'm confident, right, that a lot of the things that you did that we just talked about a second ago, the networking and the conversations and that work, one, there's somebody who came across your name and met you in an event that, like, when your name popped up, there was a familiarity there, right? Like, I'm confident in that. Because I had, I mean, I think we helped and made some introductions for Lawrence and some of this stuff, but there was, you know, that Boeing was 100% you. You know, so there's the combo of just, I think, the effort and work you did pre it, and then part of it was just, you know, to what you elaborate on, just the confidence of not over extending your knowledge base, being truthful in the answers, being a, you know, smart. I can't say smart bright. That was banned from my vernacular apparently on the team. So, you know, you were a good dude who came in and, like, you know, they hit it off and it went well. So now the experience is you started with how many? It was a lot of people that you started with in this environment. So it was a huge game changer from where you're at before.
yeah, like the team I was on at True is very small. It's maybe 3 people, including me as a co-op. So like you said, coming into the situation, I knew that there wasn't really going to be an opportunity for me to stay on there, you know, as there are oftentimes with internships. That's kind of the expectation. You know, you work and then hopefully you get a job offer at the end. But I kind of knew that going in. So um, I knew not to, you know, get my hopes up in that regard, which I would have loved to stay there and been on that team, you know, because a lot of these projects that you start, you might not see the results for 1 or 2 years, you know, whereas coming from my background as a chef, everything's immediate, you know, unless you're like building the restaurant, you know, you get that immediate gratitude. Well, I put this dish out, they loved it or they hated it, so I know, and I could move on, you know. But you start a project and it's like, all right, we'll look back on this in 6 months or 8 months or a year. It's like, okay, you know, so you got to get used to that immediacy, you know, not being such a priority. But yeah, so
well, to your, like, some of the stuff that we did in the like we did the WashU class, and just, you know, a decision you made today that you would, like, we would simulate what that decision would do and impact the business 2 years later, which was kind of mind blowing to think of, like, oh, you whether it be employee training or purchasing the software or something like that to add, like it does take time for those dividends to pay off.
Yeah.
So like, as you look back right over the past 2 years, and I want to also just kind of like reiterate, like you immersed yourself in this and basically locked yourself up, other than the occasional round of golf that we would go out and play, but like your life centered around this almost 2 full years, and like, where you had the ability to study and work and grinded at it. So like, I just want to make sure that we stomp our foot of like, you didn't just happen to like trip, fall, and get a job. Like there was effort and work put into this, that it was, earned in this regard. So I thought it was interesting, right? Like you really leaned towards GRC, but you landed in a very different type of job and function in this space. So like so tell everybody what you're kind of working on, or what you're most excited about the new role.
So my current role is incident response specialist. So or working as a SOC analyst, or, there's different ways to title that. There's, in cybersecurity, but basically you're kind of like that entry level. You're that frontline person. You're checking alerts every day, determining whether or not they're just spam or whether they're malicious, how to triage all those things and whether or not to escalate them, or, just close out the ticket and move on. So it's very different from, like I said, GRC, which is something that I probably still want to, move towards. But GRC is a little harder to kind of break into it and as an entry level position. I think they are out there, but there's not a lot of, say, certifications or things like that specifically for that type of role. You mentioned the course, that I signed up for. There's little things like that, but those aren't something like, CompTIA Security Plus, where you're going to get a certain level of recognition and have that be able to be applied towards, looking for a new job. So eventually I will, I think, try to get back within that space. But, I want to get my foot in the door at a big company, or, a new job, and kind of work my way up from there. And then it is such a large company that I can diversify within that company, rather than having to try to job hop every 2 years or so, looking for something new, which seems to be the trend nowadays for in tech or IT. So I'm trying to avoid that.
And just as a kind of a pointing out here, right? Like you took a role in a SOC at midnight, right? You took the overnight shift, which, like, that's not an ideal scenario, and I'm sure not your dream situation. But to the point being that you just stated is, you got your foot in the door in a large company, and with a little bit of effort and hard work, you can move around and not be in that spot for as long. And a lot of times, especially those overnight shifts, are really like test beds, if you will. Like, is this person great? Are they going to stick? And how is it going to work out as a culture? And if you do well, you don't stay there very long. So part of it is,
I think sometimes,
dream job, right? You were looking GRC and didn't get GRC, but it didn't frustrate you. You're gonna get what you're not. I don't want to say get what you could get, but like, you got a job that you felt good about. You can roll into it, and you can still learn and grow and do the GRC stuff on your own, to go to that role. But the perfect job may be out there, but sometimes you might have to kiss a frog or two to find your prince, and really just get your foot in the door for that experience to get into that next role that you really want to get into.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes in life you have to take a step. Well, this isn't a step backward, but sometimes you have to take a step backward to move forward. And your own. You kind of have to be like, all right, this might not be happening now, but this next step can lead to it in the future. So you can't always be, that quote I told you, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. So the perfect thing might not always be out there. So you might just have to, start somewhere and then work your way towards, your ultimate goal.
You just remind me, I haven't been getting my motivational Thursday text messages from you, so I can.
Yeah, I've been on a holiday break. So.
Cam was on a kick where he was sending us another buddy of ours a motivational texter kind of meme every week to keep us in a positive mindset, which I appreciate. So as you look back again at the 2 years, you hit the piece, right? You did the school, you got the job, you got the experience. Now, you're starting your life. What are you most looking forward to in this kind of next chapter with it?
I'm looking to learn and grow, because this is it's very overwhelming as well. When you get into this cybersecurity field, there's just so much information. So you just kind of have to take a step back and say, all right, I'm not going to know everything. I'm not going to be, I might not be the best coder. I might not be the best, at this, but, somebody else will be, and they can help me or teach me, or I can find a new path on my own. So I'm really looking forward to growing and learning. This is a job where you always have to be studying as well, in your spare time, whether it be for certifications or attending those conferences. I'm still not going to stop doing that. That's something that I enjoy doing, being out there and meeting people. Also signed up to be a volunteer for Power Up, to help teach the youth how to be safe online. So, there's things like that that I'm just looking forward to as I grow, and, I'm able to expand and, just see where this can take me, see where those skills that I spent 25 years, grinding on, how I can take those and, make them uh, transition into this new role that I have, and then use those as an asset rather than somebody saying, "Oh, you're too old to do this." I was like, well, my experience is going to be something that I think puts me ahead of the next person. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
Well, I mean, even I won't share our age, but by any means, so we'll leave the mystery there. But we're prime middle age, which means you're generally set in your ways in most things. But like you just the willingness to put yourself out there in a spot where most of us kind of anchor in, I thought was, I have a tremendous amount of respect, and it's been, I've had so much joy kind of watching this journey of yours over the past 2 years, and really like see it stick, and then to have it all work out the way it did, I think is phenomenal. And then honestly, just knowing you as a friend, it makes me happy to see that contributed. But the point of it is just the persistence and hard work. It can be replicated for anybody who's out there doing it, right? Like if you're doing the boot camp or the whatever 4-year program or 2-year program, right? Like just don't sit back and do the class and get your thing and say I'm good, right? You've got to go do the extra step. You've got to go meet the people. You got to go to the events, right? Like, like even just you drove what 3.5, 4 hours to go to B-Sides. Like, what was B-Sides is a whole nother hemisphere of just people, right? So I'll let you elaborate on. I mean, if they don't know what B-Sides is, but I'll let you elaborate a little bit.
Well, B-Sides is a little bit more, if you want to say, hacker oriented. A little bit more of the counterculture of the versus the corporate world of cybersecurity, which like Secure World or something like that, or Show Me, or might be. So you get out there and you get to see a diverse group of people, and how all these different people, whether it be the hacker crowd or the corporate crowd, we're all kind of working towards the same goal. And I think that's pretty cool. We all have the same intentions at the end of the day, and seeing that diversity come together is something that another aspect of this that I really enjoy as well. So I just wanted to see that other side, because going to those other events where it's more corporate orientated, and then you get to go see the other side of it. I think that's important.
I know us and a couple of our board members put us in for an RSA talk this year around just kind of workforce and non-traditional hiring. So my fingers are crossed we get selected for that, because I think I want to stay, because I want to hit B-Sides in Vegas, which is the piece de resistance, right? And like, but it is, yeah, but it's very, those are very different vibes, right? Like there's a hacker vibe, and then there's kind of like the corporate security vibe, and like they're the same. And those hackers work for the corporations, but I think it's just a little bit different, little wiring. I think an internal wiring there, and just a different mindset and a level of, I'm going to say, creativity.
There's a lot of cool stuff there. I mean, they have like lock picking courses. They have like CTFs. They have different people talking from all different aspects of the industry. So you get to see a lot of different things that you wouldn't see at a normal conference. So it's pretty cool.
So last question, everybody gets the same. What advice would you give for somebody to level up their cybersecurity career?
I would say don't be afraid to start and do it. Don't waste your time waiting for the perfect moment to start saying, oh, well, maybe I'll, do this in 3 months or 6 months. Like, just do it now. Find a way to just start. I think that's the most important thing. And then once you get the ball rolling, you can kind of adjust from there and figure out the best way to approach it. But sometimes you just have to do it, just do it, as they say. So I think that's really the most important thing. And don't just, like you said, rest on your laurels, and think that things are coming to you just because you did something. You have to take what you did and then keep pushing it and apply it towards, actually achieving your goal. Just because you did something doesn't mean that you're owed something. I think that's the most important thing to remember.
It's a solid quote in there that I truly appreciate the mindset. I appreciate the time today that we spent together. I appreciate the 30 plus years of friendship that we've had over all this, which has been great. But I encourage everybody, if you haven't, reach out to Cam on LinkedIn. If you've got questions, I know he's willing to help and ask and give advice and I think just give you a genuine perspective of of how to make it work. I know we got a little bit of it here, but there's Cam's a living, breathing testament that you do the school, you do the thing, you put yourself out there a little bit, that it all kind of pays off in the end, right? So I know I imagine that there are many of you in Cammy's shoes that are out there, and like there's a level of frustration. I've sent 7,000 resumes in and I've got nothing. Keep persisting, sprinkle in the networking and meeting the people and LinkedIn outreach, and that really goes a long way. And I think it really pays some dividends in the long run. So be sure to join us next week. Next week we have Mark Menglikmott with Arctic Wolf. That's a mouthful. Mark is a recent board member for CyberUp. He's an incredible human. I'm so excited. I mean, I'm still meeting and getting to know him as well. So I'm really excited to spend next week with him on the show. But Cammy, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. I'll see you out there on the course in a few months. When
it warms up and it's not 3 degrees, we can go play golf. But for now, we dream of golf and maybe play golf video games. But until next week, thank you guys for tuning in to Level Up Cyber and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot.